Ladies and gentlemen in attendance and boxing fans joining us around the world, it's showtime!
Welcome to Big Faces Worldwide, where we talking nothing but this boxing, man. What's good, fam? Hey, listen, man, first off, let me welcome everybody to the channel. And if you're new here, I want you to be here. So think about hitting that subscribe button as we stay knee deep into this boxing conversation, man. Errol Spence Jr., Danny Garcia. Do we want to see it? We all know after Errol Spence's victory this past weekend over Showtime's Shawn Porter, Spence became the unified welterweight champion. Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, they were in the house, man. They were on the Fox broadcast team. They were, talking about the fight, throughout the night. They would flash to those guys on the panel, and they would give their assessments of what they thought was happening. And both Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia, after 4 rounds, they had Shawn Porter up, man. They had excitement in their eyes that, they just couldn't believe that Shawn Porter was able to hit Errol Spence with so many clean shots, man. They were excited, especially Danny Garcia, man. Danny Garcia's eyes, lit up like a kid, man. On Halloween with a bag full of candy. Danny Garcia went up in the ring and, he said, I want that fight. Afterwards, the lady Kate from the show on PBC asked Danny Garcia, did you plan that? Was this planned? Danny Garcia said, nah, I just thought of it just now. So Danny Garcia watched Errol Spence's performance with Shawn Porter, and finally, after all the call outs, after all the criticism he was getting for not taking the fight, after a few years of Errol Spence calling for his scalp, Danny Garcia says he now wants to fight. He says that Errol Spence likes to bang. These are his words. He said Errol Spence likes to bang, and so do I. He said, I think it would be an amazing fight. The question is, will he be able to take my power? Those are the words of Danny Garcia. In my opinion, I think Errol Spence would outbox Danny Garcia easily. Let me say this. I really like Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is a guy who goes in there and he gets down. He gets funky with it. You understand what I'm saying? But Danny's output is not enough, and Danny's 2 losses to Keith Thurman. I was at that fight. Keith Thurman and Shawn Porter, I believe his output was the difference maker. Danny Garcia, in some rounds, he gets complacent. He takes part of each round off, where he's just looking at you, just kind of moving and fainting and not really throwing any punches, man. And I think, if he got in there with Errol Spence, that would be to his detriment, man. I think Errol Spence would go in there and stick that jab out. If he boxed like he, did with Mikey Garcia, I think he beats Danny Garcia easily, But the flip side to that is, Errol does like to fight. Errol does have a lot of heart, and he may want to prove something in this fight, like he wanted to prove to everybody that, following the criticism of not knocking out Mikey Garcia, he wanted to prove to everybody that he can knock out Shawn Porter, and therefore created extra pressure on himself by saying he was going to stop Porter. You know what I mean? If he does that with Danny Garcia, and gets into those type of exchanges that he got into Porter with, I've seen Porter buzz Spence a few times, and it, in my opinion, Porter is not he does not have no power. You know, he don't have that type of power to punish people, man. Guys have said that, you know, Porter has respectable power, but, you know, he does not have that power that, you know, like a Thurman or a Garcia, you know, or even a Spence. But Porter was able to buzz Errol a few times. He had Errol knotted up on the side of the head, you know what I mean? Danny Garcia, in my opinion, punches harder than Shawn Porter. So if Errol Spence went out with that mindset that he had with Shawn Porter and gets into those kind of exchanges with Danny Garcia, it's possible that Danny Garcia can catch him with something, you know, and it's quite possible that, you know, he can hurt Errol and maybe get him out of there. You know what I'm saying? That would be the only path to victory for Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence, in my opinion, man. I just don't think that Danny Garcia's output, you know, can match Spence's output. You know, in the Mikey Garcia fight, he threw over 1,000 punches. You know what I mean? I think if Spence went in there and chose to box, chose to, you know, stick his jab out there, you know, pick his shots, you know, decide when to come in, decide when to get out of there, you know, just fight a disciplined, smart fight with Danny Garcia. I think he beats Danny Garcia easily, you know. Now, as far as the business aspect of it, you know, will we get the Shawn Porter rematch, or will we get the Danny Garcia fight? You know, PBC is probably looking at all the angles. You know, if, you know, it's been reported by Mike Coppinger from The Athletic, who has been, you know, spot on with a lot of news relating to the PBC, man. You know, he said the other day that, you know, the fight was tracking at around 300 to 350,000 pay-per-view buys, and that's with a guy like Shawn Porter. I think that a rematch would do better numbers, you know, because everyone knows how good of a fight it was. You know, everybody, if they didn't see it, I'm sure they heard about it, and, you know, they will want to see that rematch. Now, having said that, Danny Garcia is a better known name than Shawn Porter. You understand what I'm saying? I believe, you know, if Errol Spence was to fight Danny Garcia, who is, in my opinion, a bigger name than Shawn Porter, I believe that those numbers would be higher than those of you know, Spence and Porter. You know, Danny Garcia, you know, he does good numbers. Danny Garcia has a good fan base, solid fan base. You know, like I said, I was at that Barclays Center when he fought Thurman, man, and let me tell you, man, I know New York is real close to Philadelphia, but, you know, 90% of the crowd in the Barclays Center were Danny Garcia fans. In fact, that fight to this day is the highest boxing show to this date. You know, they have the biggest crowd to this date. Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman, you know, they hold that record, man. So the PBC, you know, they got some deciding to do. You know, will they run the rematch back, or will they go the Danny Garcia route? You know, in my opinion, either one, as far as business, they can't go wrong. You know, either one would do pretty good pay-per-view numbers. You know what I'm saying? But far as what does Danny Garcia bring to the table? Danny Garcia really doesn't bring anything to the table, man. You know, when he stepped up the competition and fought the top elites at 147, he lost. You know, he lost to Keith Thurman. He lost to Shawn Porter. You know, you come back and you knock out Adrian Granados, who is a tough opponent for anybody, who's never been dominated, who's never been stopped. Yes, Danny Garcia did those things, man, but, you know, you got to look at Adrian Granados, man. He's really not a welterweight, you know. Has he fought at welterweight before? Yes, because it's been hard for him to get a fight at 140 pounds, man, and the opportunities at 147 has been there for him. So therefore, he jumped on those opportunities as anyone would. But look at his next fight. It's at 140. He'll be facing Robert Easter, which I think is a really good fight, by the way. But Danny Garcia and Errol Spence, I think, would be a good fight. But I do think Errol Spence would outbox Danny easily. Danny is banking on Errol fighting him the way that he fought Shawn Porter. That's why he's so excited. You know what I'm saying? He's thinking that in those exchanges he can land something big and get Errol out of there. You know what I mean? But Errol, I believe, will look back at the Porter fight and understand that you can't always fight off of heart and emotion. I know you wanted to get the knockout, but is that really the best path for victory? No, you could have boxed more and took less punishment, and I think that would have helped him win the fight easier, in my opinion, man. But Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, will we see it? I don't know. Manny Pacquiao, it's just disgusting to me. As a Manny Pacquiao fan, I've been a Manny Pacquiao fan for years, but it's just disgusting to me how he's just waiting around and allowing Floyd Mayweather to just string him along, man, and play him like that, man. Floyd is playing Manny Pacquiao like a fiddle, and Manny Pacquiao is falling for it every time. Floyd's not going to come back. He's not. Floyd is never boxing again in a real boxing matchup. So Manny Pacquiao needs to just forget that. Floyd will never fight him again. So just forget it, and decide what you're going to do, man. But you are the WBA super champion now. You have some expectations. You have to fight the top guys at 147, man. You know what I'm saying? You can't just hold the belt hostage and, not fight the top guys. He got to go out there and fight the top guys, man. Will it be Errol Spence? I think Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao could possibly do close to 1 million pay-per-view buys, maybe about 700, 750. Because we see that Errol is a decent draw. People thought it was Mikey Garcia who brought those numbers to the Errol Spence fight. But we see now that it is Errol Spence who has created this fan base for himself. You know what I mean? Errol Spence is he is on the rise, man. He is on the rise. Shawn Porter, you look at his last fight before this one with Ugas, and you could probably push pause and count the number of fans that were in the audience, man. So I don't think it was Shawn Porter who brought these fans, to make them buy the pay-per-view. I do believe it was the Errol Spence, the way he has captured the boxing audience, man. But we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. But all in all, I don't think Errol can go wrong with as far as financially for himself and for PBC. I don't think he can go wrong with the Shawn Porter rematch or a Danny Garcia fight. But as a fight fan, I really don't want to see Danny Garcia Spence, at least not right now. Errol Spence, he preaches strap season, on his quest to become undisputed. And if that's the case, man, I think, he should be going vigorously after Manny Pacquiao or Terrence Bud Crawford. I think, he should get with Al Heyman, get with his team, and tell them by any means necessary, I want to fight one of these two guys. You understand what I'm saying? But, being realistic, I don't really think that, he's going to go after Bud right now. It seems like every time Bud's name is brought up, Errol Spence brings up, money. He brings up pay-per-view, Bud's pay-per-view numbers or lack of. He brings up A-side, B-side. He brings up that type of talk, man, which tells me that, he's not in a rush to really make that fight with Terrence Crawford for whatever reason. But listen, man, I appreciate y'all tuning in. You can catch Big Faces Worldwide on Twitter, on Instagram, at Big Faces Worldwide, all one word. But in the meantime and in between time, stay blessed and keep on supporting this sport that we love, called boxing. Peace. I'll holla back.